just politics, our worldview. Live on Facebook every Sunday from 5 p.m. till 7. It's the podcast about politics in Barbados, the region, and the wider world. Now, here are your hosts, Ayo and Terry.
Ayo.
Okay, great. I can hear you now. All right, so welcome back to everyone. Sorry about the technical difficulties just now. Um, so good evening, Terry. Not sure where Ronnie went. Maybe he's gonna come back out. So you may have to message him to let him know that he has to click the link to come back in again.
Morning.
All right.
I'm here.
So, okay, he's there. Welcome. Welcome to you, gentlemen. It has been only about a few months since we last assembled here, so I'm happy to see all of you, the two of you here again. Happy to see those of you who have joined us also. So welcome. All right. You guys can hear me still, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
And you can have conversations back to me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was hear you just now, Terry, so that's okay. All right, so our poster we advertised that you saw, you would have seen that we were going to do a show about geopolitics and so forth before the bell rung. And admittedly, most of the audience who were messaging me, they didn't want to talk about that. What they wanted to talk about was the fact that the bell has rung, and they want to talk about that. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening. Now, what I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to follow the show on my laptop, so it's going to be a bit of a drag, and I'm going to try not to let that irritate me a little bit too much. I usually do this show on my iMac because my eyesight isn't the best, and it's usually good I have a big screen. I can't see anything on my phone, even when I'm looking up there, just to give you guys some eye contact. But I'm going to follow on my laptop, which is in front of me, so you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at, just so you're aware. All right, so we're going to dive right in today, and we're going to go right into the meat of this matter. Politics in Barbados. There's never a dull moment in politics, right, Ronnie?
Never a dull moment. You've got lots to talk about.
Anyway, so the bell has rung. The head lady, and she took the bell for her red bag last night, and she rung it, and she said, "All right, the ball rolling. Let's go. The people want me to call elections. We're gonna call elections." So there's a lot to discuss, and I promise you, that this show was not planned before the bell rang. We did not know the bell was going to ring. We're not back because it's election season. This is purely coincidence, just so you guys are aware that also.
Yeah.
All right, so there've been some changes to the guards in some of the constituencies. And I will start looking at the Barbados Labour Party first, because they seem to be operating under one of Roddy's favorite words, the Big Tent strategy.
You know, no, before that, I won't cut you
just
off,
this past
right?
week, the spotlight was on Commerce School for the St. Michael's Central nomination, and we had the young attorney at large, Tyra Trotman, securing a massive victory with 156 votes, taking the baton from the outgoing speaker, Arthur Holder. And of course, very well done to her, to Ronnie and Terry, both of you. We were there. I've always had a lot of time for Tyra from the time she entered politics. And I believe, Ronnie, you were the person who brought her into politics.
Yes.
He's a great recruiting sergeant for the Barbados
You guys
Party.
can speak.
Apparently, someone said that the Barbados Labour Party uses what I've done as a shopping mall. It's just waiting in front of just start picking them up. You know, I could only smile last night when the Prime Minister, in announcing the elections, said that she's forming a big tent. And I am so when you said that was my favorite turn of phrase, because, you know, in terms of the kind of politics that I was trying to promote in and outside of political activity, was this idea that you need to have a big tent to ensure the development of Barbados. You can't just operate on the basis of a small silo of any political party. And it was so interesting last night. She just went full throttle with it. And the way that it was done so effortlessly and shamelessly, I could only smile when she went, yes, we have to build this big tent, and it's important for. I was like, actually, that sounds like a speech that I would have given, or I could easily have given. And and that's good politics. I can't fault her for doing what is good politics. If you see a concept that you think could work, that your supposedly your enemy has put forward, take it up and use it. Why not? Because she recognizes that she cannot govern with 40% of the electorate, the Barbados Labour Party supporters. So her message last night, was very clear to her own supporters. You need to stop your griping about whether I'm expanding the tent of the Barbados Labour Party, because the reality is I can't govern the country with only you. And that was the kind of messaging that the modernizers for the Democratic Labour Party were trying to sell. You can't win in elections with only DLP votes. You can't govern with only
because
DLP.
the reality is
You have to expand. So that was good to see that strategy in play. I could only praise it. I can't be a hypocrite and criticize the strategy that that I devised, that I was trying to lay out, and now seeing it being rolled out. I will watch the elections with interest, let's say the least.
Yeah, Ronnie, in all fairness to the Barbados Labour Party, the idea of the Big Ten and politics of inclusion isn't exactly new, right?
Well, that's it. It's different because you realize I never used to use the word politics of inclusion, and she's moved from that. That's why it's new, because it is trying to do something different, because the politics of inclusion almost spoke to a political theater of trying to steal the persons from the other side and include them, so to speak. The concept of the Big Tent is that you were expanding the idea of what you were doing beyond just the politics, because you're talking about governing. And if you realize the conversation she tried to have last night was beyond the party. She was like, I need all of these Barbadians to govern, because I can't have half the country sitting on its hands because they're upset with me because their side didn't win. I have to find a way that when I win, even if they didn't like me or voted for me, they're still active in the governance in the country. They're still active in the civil servant. They ain't gonna hide the file. They ain't gonna just sit down on the project. They ain't gonna try to do something to hurt the country, because they kind of put down the fighting gear and pick up the farming gear. Because once the fight is over, everybody's back to the fields and trying to till the land. And I think that's the message that she was trying to sell, to move beyond the kind of politics of inclusion, which was a kind of very, if you put it, it's a kind of, I don't know, it speaks to this idea of kind of a political, how to put it, like you're trying to steal and destroy. Big Tent seems like you're trying to build and expand.
Inclusion is
but we know what
maybe the former leader of the Democratic Party would sound like that. But what does this mean though for the Democratic Party? They're losing one of their young up and coming bright sparks, and she's now with the Barbados Party, and I think that you've now removed some oxygen from them. What do you see in terms of implications for the Democratic Party? Not to mention the loss of Michael Ashley, who's obviously a stalwart in that party, name recognition, everybody knows who he is on the ground. And again, he's transitioned to the Barbados Party. He's crossed the floor. Politics of inclusion, the Big Tent, as you describe it. What are the implications, do you think, Ronnie, for the Democratic Party?
I think, and I'm speaking, and I know some people may not believe this, but I'm speaking objectively here. And Ayo knows me well enough to know when I put on my political science hat, because sometimes people don't realize that I'm also trained in political science. I think it's just like, she knows that. And I used to do polling. I'm not going to say who I used to do polling with, but I also trained in the arts. So when I speak object. I'm not saying this. I'm just saying this from a clear place. The implications for the Democratic Labour Party are grave, because you've removed at both ends. You've removed a stalwart of the party. People could say what they want about Mr. Lashley.
Was he removed or was he pushed? Did he move?
Either way, he gone. so people get into the kind of wordplay about it's whether he left or they pushed him. If you make a place uncomfortable for a person, they will not be around you. you don't have to agree with what he's done, but you have to. I think people need to put themselves in a position where if somebody is making some place toxic for you to function, why would you want to be in that relationship or around them? So you've removed from one end a senior member of the party, mind you, with cabinet experience, with political experience, campaigning experience, platform experience, and then at the other end you had another. They've removed a future of the party. So really, the party was hurt from both sides. The past and its kind of institutional history and memory, and then it was also hurt from the other end in terms of where it was trying to go and trying to develop and trying to create a new form of politics and a kind of new Democratic Labour Party and a woman. That's the other thing, because that's often, and I've said this before, that's often been a fundamental problem for the Democratic Labour Party. You attract women, you recruit them, and also elevate them within the party to positions beyond window dressing. So the party is really being damaged by this. You would have to be, really, really silly or delusional or really so hard-headed, I don't know, in your politics that you would try to pretend that this is not something that will hurt the Democratic Labour Party. Of course it will hurt the Democratic Labour Party. I think the Democratic Labour Party was fundamentally damaged from that moment with the lockout in August 2024, where it's unprecedented in the history of Barbados. You had a faction of one party literally locking the gates and bringing security on its members. The reality is political parties are factions. We all know that. All the political parties, there's lots of different factions and coalitions held together to win an election. Every party, BLP, DLP, NDP, PPP, it doesn't matter what they are. They're competing interest groups. They're always different factions in a party. That is it. The thing is, when one does something like that. Yeah, go ahead.
So Ronnie, why were you able to hold together the varying factions of the Democratic?
I don't even think. I think it's not even a matter of being able to hold them together. It is just enough to stitch them together to win the elections and then do what you have to do. I think the factions were okay, but when you have folks operating in the background who should have stayed out of politics, given what they've done to the party and the country, that further damages the party. If you recall, the party was going along and taking over quite nicely. And again, that's not me saying that. I knows me well enough. We looked at the data. I said anything that we were doing, we weren't guessing. This is looking at the data, looking at the social media analytics, looking at the social media movement, looking at the numbers, trying to get an understanding, and we were doing well. It wasn't you probably want to win an election, but we were doing well enough. And who knows within the state of politics where we are now, what could have happened. But those are things in the past, and there's no point dwelling on. We have to look to the future of what is happening in Barbados politics, where we are, and what do we do as a country. So yeah,
that's fair.
Ayo, what do you think?
I'm not sure I can hear us. Anyway, let's continue discussion. Hopefully, Ayo hears at some point in time soon. Ayo,
yes, I'm back here now. My microphone plenty full, so I gotta
you're having a lot
between the two devices so we don't get the feedback. But y'all work with me. It's okay. Next week I'll have my system back up.
Yeah.
All right. We spoke about Lashley just now, and I agree with you guys. I think that the loss of Lashley is a blow to the Democratic Labour Party. Regardless of what we think about Michael Lashley, he has some political talent. He has a lot of political talent, and it is from that talent that the Barbados Labour Party will now benefit. Of course, the problem for the Democratic Labour Party is that they've kind of lost their counterweight to Ralph at this point in time, but that's something that they will have to work through. And we know that Ralph has really seen Michael as a threat to his leadership. At least it is perceived that way. We don't know what goes on in people's minds, so I don't want to use that term, but it is perceived that way. But let's look at some of the other constituencies that have taken on some new people. We still look at the Barbados Labour Party at this time. In St. Joseph, there's been a kind of a deliberate succession plan between the current Attorney General, Dale Marshall, and young Ryan Brathwaite. I kind of watched that happen, and I like the way that happened. That tends to happen fairly often within the party, and it argues well for continuity, I think. Um, and we should see a lot more of that happening over on the Democratic Party side too, going forward if they ever rebuild the party to where it needs to be. Um, we have Chad Blackman securing St. James North, and he won that seat in a by election. I think he won something around 84, 85% of the vote. And then we have Senator Gregory Nichols, and he's also officially won the St. Thomas nomination. And our friend, he's now Dr. William Chandler. He actually put up a fight against Nichols, so Nichols came out on top. Pretty sure you guys remember William, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess these are just new faces. So I don't know, Ronnie, what are your thoughts on these candidates that you just listed?
I think Io is still trying to say something,
Yeah.
but her mic may be muted.
Yes.
Well, in terms, why Io starts the technical difficulties? Terry, me just got talk while she figures it out.
Yeah, we could just talk.
I think what we've seen from the Barbados Civil Party is really just what is good clever politics in terms of a renewal strategy. And if you track it really well, the Barbados Civil Party is almost running an election against themselves. So think about it this way: they
All right.
are going to present.
Let me run
Let me explain. They're going to present a new suite of candidates.
Right.
That the party will look nothing like what it looked like in the last election. And in some ways, their campaign is not against the Democratic Labour Party, because I don't get the sense that they see the Democratic Labour Party in its current iteration, in its current state, as enough a threat. What they're trying to worry about is their own internal management of what could be their own leadership crisis and their own issues of renewal, watching what has happened over on the Democratic Labour Party side. So they are ensuring that they don't end up in the same position. So they're managing a renewal stage. If you realize, carefully staged managing takeovers from one person to a next in the constituency. You don't have a fight up by the old guard. You don't have a sense of people, feeling that they're being thrown out. Whatever the conversations had in the background, it's all an easy, seamless handover. Look at the situation in St. Joseph, from Marshall to Bradford. Look at the situation with the Speaker of the House to Ms. Trotman. In every single scenario, well played out, a sense of orderly movement from one to the next. So in many ways, this particular election is the election that the Barbados Civil Party is running against the Barbados Civil Party. They almost run against their old selves, because now they're going to come to the platform and they will bet money on it. And the Prime Minister will say, this is a new Barbados Civil Party. These are new people, and she's going to be right. How you could blame any of those people for any of the problems of the previous Barbados Civil Party minister? Give us a chance to refresh. Give us a chance to fix the things that we didn't get to fix or we didn't get to finish. I have energy. I can write the speech for her now. I have the energy. Listen, look at it. Look what you see.
Are you writing the speeches, Ronnie?
That's a campaign speech. I have energy for a young Trotman. The crowd gonna roar. Then she gonna bring on the young fella from St. Joseph. And how do you beat that? You can't tell her that she's not renewed the party. And then she said, I got the experience of Kerry and Santi, and she gonna name them out, put them in the corner.
If we hear these,
I want to see
these themes in any of the Prime Minister's speeches on election campaign, we know exactly who wrote it for her.
You don't. This is the playbook is so straightforward. This is politics. Politics is a change, and then she's going to talk about it as the great combination, the youth and the experience and the women and the young. Listen, she is good. And that's the campaign. That is literally the campaign. And it's not going to be about sticking with her. It's going to be about renewal and going to the future. That is where the campaign is
I
going.
mean, some people could put it another way. You could put it as managing decline is if you're going to be negative. Or is it,
Not when you have so many fresh faces. Not when you have that many fresh faces, fresh people who've never been in politics.
You're building momentum then, momentum.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I think that's going to be part of it.
Okay. Do you think that the calling this election is a deliberate move to damage the Democratic Liberal Party?
No, I think if you think about it, the last elections were 1 year out.
Yeah,
exactly. And Barbados, we tend not to go right down the line anyway. So elections would have been in a we know how that ended. So nobody will ever do that again. Like that will never be tried. So typically you're looking for a 6-month period. So the elections would be around, if not now. And if you think about it, the 6-month period would put us into summer and crop over, and nobody's holding elections in crop over. And then that takes us into September, which is the return to school. You don't hold the elections during back to school. And then what do you have left? Christmas. So really, it's now or when is it going to be? Then she would end up right at the line. And we know how that works out. That doesn't play well.
So this is perfect timing as far as
it's either now or never.
I know.
I'm sorry I didn't hear when Ronnie was mimicking the Prime Minister just now. It came back in on the end of that.
I wasn't mimicking the Prime Minister. I was just saying what she was going to say.
Okay, I'm sorry I missed that part.
I know
I'm being naughty. Don't mind me.
This is a confession from the doc that he has written some of these speeches. He's just
oh boy. All right. Let's move on to where's Ronnie gone now? I'm back and his camera gone. Anyway, we'll flow through.
Yeah.
So let's look a little bit at what's happening over on the other side right now, in George Street. The Democratic Liberal Party last night, Ralph, he said that, or rather this morning, I think he said that, they're election ready, and that's the image that they're projecting right now. The truth is that I think a lot of observers may still be unconvinced that the party's internal machinery is prepared for this contest, for a proper contest, rather. There's some of the issues that I think people may be wondering about, like financing, and another thing too, because I don't want to get into people's pocket business, but frankly, I don't think that we know enough of the candidates very well. There are very few candidates that we know, that we've seen, but there are a number of candidates that I kid you not, I literally had to do a search on the internet to get the full slate of the candidates for the Democratic Liberal Party. When I look at the names, there are many of them that I can't put a face to. But I'll read that list for you and maybe done them a favor by reading this list and giving their constituency, because I'm pretty sure there are people who are listening who don't know this full list. Ronnie, you may be well abreast of it, but a lot of us just aren't. So, of course, we have Tharn, he's in St. John. We have Corey Greenwich, he's in Christchurch South. I know him because recently he started to, do a little thing on social media. There's Jason Phillips. Oh God, let's move on from that. And then there's Paul Gibson. He's St. James Central. Jason Phillips is St. Peter, by the way. Felicia Dujon, everybody should remember her because she ran in the she ran against Chad during the St. James North by election. We know how that turned out. Is she contesting St. James North again this time, Ronnie?
I don't think Ronnie's there.
He's not there? All right.
If I remember, she's in St. George.
I'm not familiar with that person. He's with St. George North. And then there's Melissa Howard, also not familiar with that person, for Christchurch West Central. Ainsley Granger. Something about that name sounds familiar. Like I should know that person, but I don't. At least I can't recall the person at this point in time. That person is for St. Michael East. We have Simon Clark. He's St. Philip North. We know Simon. Simon is a well-known comedian. There's Andrew Cave in Christchurch West. I know him from social media. and there's Andre Roll, and we know Andre Roll, and he's running St. Lucie. So if you look at the people, you see who they are based on this list. This is the first list I've seen together with the candidates, and it's one that but I pulled from the internet myself.
Can you hear me,
Ayo? These people, they have approximately 3 weeks basically to ingratiate themselves into the public and win the votes of the public. What do you think? I want to hear specifically from Ronnie on this list. You know these people?
Some of the thoughts on your list are incorrect. Andre is not in St. Lucie. Ian Griffith is in St. Lucie. Andre is against Miss Trotman in St. Michael. What's that? Is that St. Michael Central? Yes, which was Mr. Blackett's former seat. And I think you maybe mix Simon Clark with Simon Ali. Two different people, because you said a well-known comedian, so I'm not sure. And then I think there are a couple others there that may not be in the correct place. But I've not seen a full list myself, so I think we're waiting for that.
Okay, Ayo. Ayo probably invent this list. Ayo, are you running Democrat Party? Have you given them these candidates to run in these locations? Well, it's as good a list as any. Of course, we don't really know many of these people. I guess Ralph Thorne is the only person that is best known.
Listen. I went to the internet. I pulled this down. The internet is not always correct. It's why I always tell my students, don't use anything. Research it properly. I've created. I've done the thing that I advise not to do. This is what I pulled. So
did you use AI?
I should not have had to do that. That's the point I'm making. I should not have had to do that. I should have known who these candidates are. I should be able to, the name should be rolling off my tongue. I should be telling you guys, these are the candidates. Do you understand that? I know who's running against Chantal because that's my constituency. I have to know who's running against her, right? And to be honest, I only became aware of him very recently. So again, I should not have had to go looking for this list of people. This list of people should have been presented to me because I'm part of the public. I'm part of the voting public. Yes, Botany, definitely chat GPT. It never gets anything right.
It's funny. Yeah, I mean, it speaks to a larger point. We don't exactly know who these people are, apart from maybe Ralph. And yeah, so they're fresh faces, and whoever they are, they'll be introduced to the public soon on the campaign trail. Hopefully, and we get to figure out exactly who the candidates are, what they're about, see if any of them are talented in a political way, and see how it goes on. What are the prospects?
Is it possible then, Ayo, that you can have? I am not advocating for either the Democratic Labour Party or the Barbados Labour Party. I am in no party at the moment. But
when you just said you were writing speeches for the Prime Minister. So.
I never said like, so Terry, you see how rumors. Oh God, Terry, you see how it starts, right?
Just getting clarity.
I just gave you a taste of what the Prime Minister would say, and I said let's bet on it because I bet you that's exactly what the speeches are going to look like. So I was just I
apologize, Ronnie. I apologize. I misheard you. I misunderstood. But just for clarity, you are not rating speeches.
Yes, Terry. Are you?
Oh,
no. Perhaps you have a few. If you could have a few on the show, both at the same time to talk about their particular policy initiative or their views on their constituency. That might be an interesting thing to do. Once they agree to come on, like I don't see why anybody in this day would not agree, for some airtime to have a discussion and to talk about their views. So maybe that's something you can think about. We obviously can't do all 30. That's a lot. But maybe some of the interesting ones are the ones that you think are interesting. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, it makes sense. Ayo. Okay, well, I guess we will probably.
I suspect that you guys ended our every site, and I was listening to it on the drag, so I decided to come back.
Okay.
All right. I want to move on. I'm not sure if there's anything that said early, between that little drag, but I want to move the conversation on to something that had me a little bit, I don't want to use the term upset, but a little bit wary over the past few days. And this is with regard to Ralph's comment that he made with regard to the EBC. He recently, I don't want to say centered his platform, but that's where he took it, basically about this profound distrust that he has right now with regard to the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. He even went as far as to accuse the Barbados Party administration of meddling in the commission's internal management. And, you know, I don't really accept that this is just standard political maneuvering, as some people might call it, because there's so many things that you can be talking about. First and foremost, if it's the opposition, the only thing I'll be talking about is the cost of living. And I have my own views on that, but that's what he'll be talking about. I won't be trying to go here. I think the language used where he was calling for the independence of the commission, he's calling their independence, the independence of the commission into question, basically, and hinting that the voters list is being manipulated in dangerous territory. I have a short thing here for Ramon Ali. I mean, he responded because I feel like this mirrors the it kind of mirrors the stop the steal language that fueled the January 6th insurrection in the United States, and that's why I don't like it. In a country like Barbados, I feel like we have a long history, basically, of transparent and a transparent transition to power, basically. So I feel like planting these seeds of doubts, right? It's kind of high risk. It's a high risk gamble, and it risks moving the conversation away from policy and going into a conversation we're talking about the cleavage of regime, you know, that type of language, and that's where I don't want it to go. So I feel like that's very dangerous territory that we're entering. And let me just try to find the statement here that was made by Mr. Ramon Ali. He's the chairman of the EBC. He held a press conference and he countered the claims directly, and he stated unequivocally that there's no evidence whatsoever that the voters list has been manipulated or that there's any attempt has been made to compromise the electoral process, basically. And he clarified it that while the EBC is an independent body, it does interact with government departments for administrative logistics reasons and so forth. I think something to do with stamps or something like that. And he also warned about the misinformation that can undermine the public confidence in the system. And this is where I have a problem because he's right. And if we talk about this, and before I come back to you guys, because there's no mere live, before I come back, I just want to finish this thought. I want to talk about how the EBC is basically chosen, how it's made up. Because as the opposition leader, he has a hand in choosing the members of the EBC. I mean, this is first year politics, right, Ronnie? Basically. So the chairman and two other members are basically recommended by the prime minister, and the president would appoint those people. The deputy chairman and one other member is chosen by the leader of the opposition, which means that Ralph, and they don't just choose them by themselves, they choose them. So the prime minister would consult with the leader of the opposition, and they agree that these are the three people that he or she is going to put forward, and so forth. And the same thing would happen with the whole collaboration. So there's a lot of consultation happening between when these people are selected. So the opposition basically, they have the power to directly recommend 40% of the commission. So my question then becomes, if the leader of the opposition, the very person that has constitutional right or constitutional responsibility to place the people on the commission, if this person is suggesting that the entire body is compromised, it means then that it calls into question the very mechanism that he is a part of. which is kind of silly on my as far as I'm concerned, because it's almost like you're telling us that you don't trust the people that you yourself has appointed. Do you understand the point I'm making? I think it may score some short-term political points with a certain category of people, but it risks doing long-term damage, I think, to the bedrock of what we want our democracy to be, or rather our democratic process. So I'm going to open the floor, which means I have to switch the volume and stuff, and you guys can tell me what you think about this whole happenstance, I think, to the bedrock.
Yeah, I think, and I wrote about this in today's paper, which is very coincidental in terms of I didn't even know the election was being called, and I wrote an article just outlining a few issues. This is one of them. The Electoral Bodies Commission is obviously governed and chosen through the Constitution. Then you have the Representation of the People's Act. You're right. The government chooses 3 persons. The opposition chooses 2 persons. So this is exactly the point I made. If the opposition is calling into question the kind of legitimacy or the functioning of the commission, then you are calling to question the 2 people that you've put there to watch and guard what is happening on the commission. Now, if you think that there's something legitimately wrong with the commission, then the 2 persons that you appointed, either, as we know in democratic processes, would have to resign in protest because they're like, we don't think this commission is functioning. We don't think that this is governing the electoral process of Barbados properly. They would resign. They would say publicly why and put the evidence to the public. But if the opposition leader is out there on this kind of frolic of his own about the integrity of the electoral process, but your 2 appointees who you directly appointed, not so anybody else, you directly appointed them, they're recommended by you, are sitting passively and quietly on the commission, that means that there are obviously agreement with the work of the commission. So that means there's some friction obviously between them and you, or you are just trying to create a smoke screen for what you anticipate will be heavy losses on your end, so that when the election doesn't go your way, you can claim that something went wrong. And I agree with you, Ayo, and I've said it publicly, so this is not any new, that I think it's a really dangerous line to go down. I do not think we should open this door unless you have clear, hard, uncompromising evidence. And I mean, because this is a serious accusation, you have to have clear evidence that something is going on, and you have to then bring it to the public. But to stir the pot without clear evidence and then try to do this half loyally, trying to be half clever, like, oh, I didn't make a direct accusation, I never said that, I was just, I mean, come on, like, really, we're all adults here, this is politics. If you have an accusation to make it, here's the evidence. If not, stop the foolishness, because it is not the way to go. Yes, you can call for reforms in the system. For example, first past the post, we know doesn't work properly. You may want proportional representation. Let's have that debate. You can call for fixed term elections because you think the government having the ability, the ruling party, to call the elections when they want is an unfair advantage. But the reality is that's the system. I see someone here talking about calling a snap election is it doesn't give people chances to prepare. Well, then you know what? As I've advocated for years, let's more of us advocate to change the system. Get fixed term election dates. Right now, the Prime Minister has the power. That is our system. I see people getting upset as if a Prime Minister, I'm not talking about the Prime Minister currently, I'm talking about the office of a Prime Minister. That, when they call elections, oh, it's unfair. Why does the Prime Minister do these? I'm like, well, it's in the Constitution. That's the law. I mean, if you don't like it, advocate for different. I'm still advocating for constitutional reform because I don't think that that's the process. I don't think it should be allowed. And I've given my reasons in different forums and papers. But when it happens, I can't kick up a storm as if something wrong was done, because that's what's the legal parameters of what the Prime Minister is allowed to do. You're allowed to ring the bell when you feel like. That's the nature of the system. That's the colonial Westminster system that we inherited, and every party likes to talk about how they're going to change it. When they get into power, they realize it's a big advantage, and they don't change it. The reality is it needs to change. So if you're going to have those kinds of conversations, but to go down this route, I think about some kind of electoral fraud, or you think that there's misnomers with the commission, but without clear evidence, it worries me what you're doing, because it's obvious that when you lose, that's what you're going to pin it on. And I don't think that that's good for our democracy, because on the flip side, if you win, what do you say? You just accuse the commission of, like maybe dabble-ins. You win. Did you win fairly? Is that not the equal accusation on the other side? So if you suppose you did do well and you did win a few seats, then are you not calling to question the seats that you win? Because then the people on the other side can say, well, actually, you know what? You raised it. I didn't. Maybe they did, you didn't win fairly. That's why you don't open these kinds of doors. And Barbados has a good reputation for electoral management, or, generally speaking. Over the years, and over the years, we send people to monitor elections in other countries. We've never had monitors, for good reason, because we've just been able to do it well enough. I'm not saying that cleaning up the voters list at this point isn't some kind of electoral risk per se, and you would question, does the ECB have the resources to do it quickly? But we all know the list needed cleaning. Anybody who did political polling or stats, or who've worked in this field for years, every time you have to do a poll, you have to go through the list. It was a headache. We, from our end, of those who were involved in politics from the electoral management side, we know for a long time the list needs cleaning. So they're trying to clean the list. It may not be the opportune time, and that is probably maybe the ECB not, thinking with its political hat on. Perhaps no, it's not the time. But again, I guess when is ever the time to engage in such an exercise? It's needed doing for eons, and finally it's getting done. But at the same point, does cleaning the list equate with electoral mismanagement? I don't see the two connections unless you have clear evidence. And that's all I've said that before, and I'll say it over. Bring the evidence, and then we can have that conversation. And I don't think that's a conversation needed. And as Ayo said, there's so many issues. The economic diversification law, the transport board diversification, the farming issues, the water issues, you could literally run a campaign on cost of living. There's so many actual issues that affect people's lives that you can build out a proper campaign on. And if I was running a campaign, it would be cost of living. Cost of living. Yeah. As Bill Clinton said, what he said is the economy stupid. That would be it. So there's no need for that, for those dalliances on things about electoral fraud, unnecessary.
Yeah, I think I agree totally with Ayo and yourself, and I think perfectly said, actually. Either put up or shut up. It's too serious, too important to our democracy in Barbados, that people have confidence in the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and they have confidence in the system that we have. Is the Prime Minister's prerogative to call the election? Just call the election. Get ready.
Yeah, that's it. And if you don't like the process, but then promise the people a new process, and if you win, stick to it. I believe in term limits. I think fixed electoral dates are the way to go. I've said this. It's something that I think is good for our democracy. The Prime Minister, in her own right, she said the opposite. I think she's made the point that she doesn't think fixed electoral dates or term limits are the way to
go. Debate about it.
Right? Exactly. And that's a prerogative, but everybody can have their views. But put it out there in campaign. That's what you do. And as people in the chat, the roads, all sorts of issues, real bread and butter politics. That's what you need to be running a campaign on. What are the bread and butter issues that are affecting Barbadians? and how do you plan to solve them? Not necessarily fix everything because you can't, but how do you plan in the interim to present some kind of solutions to solve these problems? For example, I saw there was a point where some of the opposition parties were talking about renationalizing the transport. And perhaps this is a conversation, Terry, would love to hear your view on this. Renationalizing the transport system, because I guess the government's diversifying it to privatize and create a management structure over the transport system. That's the conversation on one hand. But on the other side, they're saying the country is broke, we keep borrowing money. So my question is, how are you going to renationalize something when you've actually said you don't have any money? So that means that are you lying, or are you going to put up borrowing? And these are the real conversations, because you can't have it both ways. So when I see opposition parties going like, yeah, you're going to renationalize, I'm like, but that's not a credible option. If it's already been privatized, you then have to show me, if you renationalize it, how are you going to continue to fund this at a loss? Because you're subsidizing for loss making routes, or you're subsidizing for vulnerable people. So where's that money going to come from? These are real conversations. We know Transport Board and other SOEs, they carry large government debt for years. So all of these are the real conversations facing Barbados. And you want to see the opposition parties making credible solutions, and putting policies. Yeah, you have to have the fact, because the reality is politics is still a fact. Any political person would be silly to think that you're going to take the party out of politics. And I mean both. I mean the political party and the actual party, because that's just human nature. It is part of what it is. So there's that element of theater and fun, and the election campaign, the bell ringing. Prime Minister's queen of theatrics. I mean, last night when she pulled the bell out and started ringing it, I was just like, I in my head, I was thinking, could this happen in the UK? Would you see the Prime Minister Starmer come out on Downing Street, announce the elections, pull a bell from the red box, and start ringing? Caribbean politics has a certain theater that is very, peculiar and interesting and fun to us as a people, and that's something we should try to. I don't think we should get rid of that. That is important for that's a part of our culture and who we are. I think there's fun to it, and in all the seriousness of it as well. But that is part of who we are. That's our culture. I couldn't imagine in any other country an election being announced in this.
You mean this bell?
Yeah, exactly. An actual bell, not only a physical bell.
The bell has rung for sure. No, you're right. As it pertains to the debate, public transportation, nationalizing that is a debate that we should have. There are pros and cons. If you want to speaking specifically about renationalization of public transportation. Sometimes some people like having ZR bands and appear, every other minute, right? If you were to nationalize, that might not happen anymore. Similarly, obviously we have problems with the roads. The competition is on the streets, which is, I think, the big problem that we have with private transport in Barbados, is that they're competing on the streets. So a lot of the laws unfortunately get broken because of that competition on the streets. If we could move that competition away from the streets of Barbados, then perhaps we can have a better system. But this is the debate that we should have, whether we renationalize. I'm not too convinced that we should do that in its entirety.
So how could we support? Because my worry is that the way the government's doing it disadvantages vulnerable who can't afford private transportation or taxis or Uber or whatever. So there are certain places that private transport will not go. Like if you live in St. Andrew, or as if you live in Hickeys, in deep places like in Boscobel or in Dark Hole in St. Andrew, you're not going to get regular buses. You live on the whole town, Spikestown kind of, or Sis Road.
Yeah, you get every 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're good to go. So how do we get to ensure that those folks in those areas still have access to good transport, while making sure that the system still runs efficiently at the other end. I have a view of what I think it was cross subsidization, taking some of the profits from the profitable ends to support the unprofitable ends, but then you would have to sit down and work out the metrics of how that would work and equations and things. But that's my big idea, to try to balance it out, because I don't see how else you're going to get the money, because otherwise the money is going to have to come from the taxpayer end, and I'm not sure there's enough money from the taxpayer side, so it has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, well, in terms of this debate, so again, that's a symptom of the same problem. So if the competition is on the streets, then those routes that don't have a lot of traffic will not see a lot of competition, right? The competition thinking about this, I mean, you just raised it, but thinking about it just off the cuff, you could find a way to move the competition from on the streets to maybe have various owners of these vans, buses, bid for them, and move the competition to a bidding process where they bid for the particular routes, and then they get to operate on the routes, and this might help. And also, like your idea of having a mix where you can transfer some funds from the more profitable routes to routes that aren't as profitable. This would all be a part of that bidding process, because of course, if your route is not as profitable, you don't bid as much for this particular route, or maybe you get subsidized to provide a service on the route. So yeah, that would be my like 2 cents worth. At this point, I've already thought about it, but yeah, we definitely need to get the competition off the streets. But yeah, this is a conversation that we could have in a serious political environment. We would be having conversations like this. The leader of the opposition would be having this conversation publicly. It's just sad that we have, as opposed to yourself, we have someone else.
That's life. That's life, Terry. What's it? You don't look back. What's that song?
Yeah,
who's it? I can't remember it. Like, there's that famous. Oh God, what's the group? You remember? It's one of these pop groups. Don't look back. Is it?
If I could turn by the hands of time.
No. Who sang Wonderwall? Oasis. Don't look back.
Oh yes.
Yes.
I'm a millennial. I should know that. Right?
You should know that.
I thought you wanted to break a rendition of If I Could Turn Back the Hands.
No. No.
Oh boy. Yeah, interesting conversation you guys are having, and I take your point, Ronnie, on the issue of the transport board. I'll tell you that from my socialist perspective, I would prefer a situation where the transport board could remain within the hands of the government for obvious reasons. Of course, I'm not any person in the government, so but that's where my position would be. What are some of the issues though? Like,
not to cut you, but if it remained in government, because this is interesting, because this is going to be a hot topic for elections, I think.
It will be.
So far, the DLP has basically said they're going to rationalize, but with no, from what I'm sensing, but I can't see a plan. So if you're going to keep it in the hands of government, how do you continue to fund it when really it is a loss-making exercise? Mm-hmm. And the government borrowing, on one side, we're saying that borrowing is up, we can't borrow anymore. That's a part of the equation. We're borrowing too much.
And what it comes down to, Ronnie? It really comes down to the fact that sometimes arguments are made, but they're not made from a firm ideological position. Mm-hmm. Because if we're making an argument such as free school meals, for instance, and we're making that from a true ideological position, we're not wondering how we're going to fund it. What we're saying is we're going to provide it. Mm-hmm. Do you understand the point I'm making?
No, I fully understand the point.
Yeah. So once I understand the real question, and I use real on purpose, you understand. Once I understand the real question about how are we going to fund it, because that has to be considered. And I fully get that that's where the decision was made from a real position as we can't fund it. Do you understand that? I appreciate that. If you're going to question it, then you have to also answer the real question about how you yourself are going to fund it.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
Correct.
Because your argument then has to be thrown out because it's not from a true, pure ideological perspective of, look, I'm a socialist and I want to provide. It's like, this is just a political, it's politically expedient for me to stay right now.
Yeah.
Do you understand the point I'm making?
Yeah, I get the point.
But so that would be the question that they themselves will have to answer. Why am I making this call? And if you can't back it up, well, it's one of those calls I dismiss. But I'm not the average voter.
Well, then it leads to a bigger question then of what are the priorities of government? Like, what should be the priorities? Because everyone has a feeling of what they think government should do. No, this should be free. That should be free. We should have this. Oh, this. The government should do X and Y. But a government is only can do only so much. There's only so much money.
And once we want all this for free, we want our taxes lowered too.
Yes, exactly. So you'd be like lower and
we don't want you borrowing.
And we don't want you borrowing. So my question is, something has to give in the system, and then I think as a country, and I've said this before, we need to collectively agree what are the priorities of government, the things that government will fund. I just said, I put it from an ideological perspective. These are national priorities. Does not matter, sun, rain, whatever happens, we will fund them.
This is what we're doing.
Education, health, for example. Those are two that always come to mind. I can't really. The third is always
to those, and only once in our history have we strayed from education.
Yes.
Ideologically, as a country, we committed to health and we committed to
education. We still
we understand that, and we fund it. We find it regardless because that's our promise to our people.
Are we still waiting on an apology for that education thing?
Well, we know it ain't coming.
You know, Terry, somebody said you being messy tonight, and I agree.
Oh, what?
Stop it. I reading the code 6:03 p.m. Terry is being messy.
He's always messy.
Oh,
but continue your point, Ronnie.
No,
I like where you were going.
So I think we have to, and I'm not sure it will happen at this election, and maybe it should happen at this election, because I think after this election is when the real election is going to start. And let me explain that. I think after this election, that's when the real tough decisions are going to have to be made. Politically, Barbados is going to be an interesting space. What's happening in Venezuela, what's happening with Trump, etc. This is Trump's second year? We still got another 3 years to go.
No, it's only a year.
It's only year one.
It's still year one, Ronnie.
Oh gosh, it feels long. So we got another 4.
It's only year one.
It's still year one, and if the doctors are correct, it might only be a few months. But let's continue.
So we have another 3 years, etc. So what I'm saying, the election will happen after the election, is that after this election, on the Barbados Labour Party side, you would probably expect that their internal issues for leadership will come to fore. Because, at any point in the juncture after a leader, you've won 3 times, something's going to have to give. That's just a natural cycle of leadership. So they're going to have their issues. The Democratic Labour Party on the other side, if it doesn't get its act together, which it doesn't seem at this particular moment, they're going to continue to have struggles far from just leadership, just struggles, period, as an institution. So you're going to have a Democratic Labour Party struggling on one side, a Barbados Labour Party's internal leadership battle beginning, I'll put money on that. After this election, that's when it will start. That race will start in the jostling among themselves. So they're going to have their own frictions. So really, at this moment, Barbados is in a really precarious position. I don't think we've ever found ourselves in where both political parties will be in a kind of, a wobble. I don't know what a word I can use. Yeah, one worse than the other, obviously. But because usually in the cycle, when one is up, one is down. And that's always been the balance. When the Democratic Labour Party's got its act together, it comes into government naturally. Then the Barbados Labour Party's in opposition. It pulls itself together. It rethinks. They get kicked out. The other one goes and refreshes. And literally, I know people are like, oh, that's a ping pong politics. But if you think about it, that's how it works, because sometimes you need opposition to refresh. You need to go and just sit down for a little bit and start thinking, how am I going to run the country? What will I do differently? What am I going to come to tell the people? What am I going to do to transform Barbados? So you need that refreshing period. So we're going to be in an interesting point where the natural rhythm of our politics is not resetting. And it's not been settled for since what? I guess since Thompson passed away, really. If you kind of trace it, and I always good at these things, we've not had the natural pattern of what should be happening politically in Barbados. It's just been off. And I don't know how we reset it.
I think if I may cut you off,
yeah,
is I understand what you're saying, but I'll also say this. And you mentioned when Thompson died, and that's a good time frame to go by. Because since Thompson died, a lot has happened in the world.
Yeah.
And there has been, and I feel like if you're people who are intuitive can feel it, that something has changed in the world, right? And we really aren't normal. And I don't mean to venture into the conspiracy theorist space, right? But just as a person, and just financially, just socially, just politically, the world has changed in some ways, and I don't think we're going back to how things used to be before COVID, before Trump, right? Honestly, people are like, oh, we just need to get rid of Trump, we need to get rid of this, we need to get rid of that person, and we need to go back. What I think is happening is that we need to decide how we're going to shape the future, because we're not going back. All right? I've been alive for too long, and times change all the time. Times change, they just change. But what has happened has been kind of seismic. This change that just took place before COVID, just before COVID, and going forward since then has been kind of seismic. And if you are in tune, I know that you felt it. I don't know if it is, if it comes down to, I don't think it comes down to just certain people's positions in life. I don't think it's just that. I think that we can all feel it regardless of who we are. Some of us are just more privileged to based on our positioning, but we can all tell that the world has changed. What is going to make the difference, I think, is how we move forward. How do we plan, and how do we reposition ourselves? And this is why I'm kind of upset with, and I don't like to use the term upset. I use that when I'm being lazy intellectually. But this is why I'm kind of upset with CARICOM right now and its response, and how scattered we are in our response towards the more global and geopolitical issues that we're facing as a region. Because if we continue on the path that we're going, I don't feel that there's going to be a way for us to turn back and make it right again. It's something that we really have to, and it really has shown up the weakness of CARICOM. It has shown up the weakness of the so-called solidarity of the region. And this is what we really want to talk about today, and it's something that we're probably going to have to look at next week. Although next week, I really want to talk about some more local politics. The show that I got for next week, when I get my system back together, is more local politics. But I think that we should spend some time talking about the geopolitical realities, what it means for the region, how it affects us, and what we should be doing going forward. Not that we can give the advice, but we can talk about that next week at some point in time. But to cut my point short is that I really feel like something has shifted. We're not going back. The world has changed. Everything has changed. Like, that's just what it is. And I think that's what you're trying to express, Ronnie.
Yeah, and it's like, how do we manage that change, and what does our politics look like in that change, right? And I think perhaps that is where the current iteration of the Democratic Labour Party and opposition parties on a general are struggling with. And in some ways, I think maybe the Barbados Labour Party is also struggling with it. But what saves them is that they are better at creating an optics of understanding it. Because I don't think any political party is not struggling with what is the dynamics of the future, where through these institutions that were created, birthed out, post 1937 riots, post World War II. We like to criticize all the international institutions, but we forget that a lot of our local institutions were born around that same 1950s period.
Yep.
So they were children of that period. The internet was a thing. All sorts of things were a thing, and they're still struggling to adapt to the needs of the modern citizen and the modern environment. And the average political party in the Caribbean, in some ways, beyond the optics, yes, the social connections have changed, but the structure of that party has not changed. And if anyone knows me, they would understand those are the kind of debates and some of the things that I was trying to have. That serious conversation of how do we make parties modern and responsive to our particular environment. And that's going to be a challenge for both of them. And it's going to be a challenge for Barbados. So whether you support the Barbados Labour Party or Democratic Labour Party or whichever party, I think if you are serious about politics and the country, you have to recognize that both of them after this election are going to be entering into a more uncertain phase. I don't have all the answers. I don't know where it's going to land out. Maybe Terry, you got some views. I can see the problem, but I can't see all the solutions. I can see part of it.
Often I join these episodes, I like to read some of the comments from the audience. I'm afraid to read some of these comments tonight. What is it? Y'all are so bad behaved in this comment section tonight. What going on, man?
Oh boy.
Well, Terry was being messy, so let me.
I'm not being messy.
These comments though, but yeah, I agree with Cammy Hoyt. It's what she's saying here. I hope I call your name correct, Cammy. She's saying that Curry Khan is just only a name and and in reality he's dead.
I wouldn't go that far.
It's a little bit.
I understand the sentiment.
So I'm trying not to say that I don't agree with her, because in some ways I do, and in others, the more rationalist in me is saying, well, don't let's go that far right now.
Yes,
right?
not yet. Give it a little chance to breathe. And I think I think maybe because we're all regionalists, we all went to UE. Like I mean, we understand the value of the project, because without the project, we
want it to work. I think.
Yeah, exactly. And it works so well in some spaces. University of the West Indies, like all of us are products. Without that, where would we be? Like, none of us would have had the chances to explore education.
We certainly wouldn't have met. None of the three of us on this.
No. Yeah, we wouldn't. It just, so we want the project to work across the board. And I think maybe, I don't know if CARICOM recognizes sometimes how much goodwill there is out there for CARICOM. And maybe they need to recognize people want it to work, and to, again, recreate the organization that was created in the 50s, 60s to now respond to and that's the problem. All of these institutions just don't seem to know how to respond to its current environment. They're all like deer in headlights, like, oh no, what do we do? Like, what's happening? And that calls for leadership, that maybe calls for refreshing. And maybe we're not seeing enough of that in the institutional frameworks that govern the region. Just thinking out loud.
I get the points they're making. Terry?
Well, I mean, you guys said a lot of things, but coming back up just a little bit. So Ronnie, so you said that the Barbados Party, they're going to be entering after this election. They're going to be entering.
You being messy again, Terry.
No.
Are you writing Miss Motley's speeches? I'm going to give the prime. Are you writing Miss? I didn't say Miss Motley's speeches.
I'm just recapping where we've been and taking a couple steps back to something. Do
I need to put on my lawyer hat or my political science hat?
You do not have. Right. So the Barbados Party may be in some a moment of some tension after this election itself. Assuming that the win, which looks very likely at this point in time, but you can never really tell. Get out and vote, people, on election day. But anyway,
who will be in tension?
the succession crisis. Well, the Barbados Party. So the Barbados Party. So Ronnie was making the point, and Ronnie, please correct me if I misquote you in any way.
Terry, the last man that I tried to correct in the newspaper come by and write an epistle to this paper, a rambling epistle. So I don't know, maybe I don't have any luck with
corrections. Right. So Ronnie was making the point earlier, Ayo, that I know the Barbados Party after this next election, there's going to be a succession, obviously, not necessarily a crisis, but there's going to be some tension in the party as maybe the next potential leader.
The leadership. Okay.
Yeah, leadership crisis, and or maybe quasi crisis, and obviously the Democratic Party is in tremendous crisis right now, and they've been for a while. That may continue. And of course, that begs the question, are there any other parties on the scene that we might be looking to? We have other parties that are emerging in Barbados. Do we think that there is any potential for a new Democratic Liberal Party coming and making some headway into the political landscape of Barbados? What do you think about that, Ronnie?
Well, the last time that those words "new" and Democratic Labour Party were used, everybody like they're stealing my words from Big Tent to I don't know. I should have just, you know what? As someone said, Ronnie, you shut at the shopping mall, and people just seem to be shopping. So you won't be the first, and I'm sure you won't be the last. I am not sure what is on the horizon. I can't see any particular formations. And then the people that I think should come forward to get into politics usually do not want to get into politics for all the things that they've seen happen when people get into politics, whether it is the lockouts, whether it is the so-called backstabbing, whether it is the front stabbing, whatever it is, and sometimes you can't be upset with them because it takes a certain kind of stomach to get into politics. There's a lot that goes on in the background. So I don't get upset with people, saying I won't do politics. But at the same time, I think Obama made this point, and he made this point a lot during his presidency in post. Democracy is messy. Politics is messy. But if those of us who would have the country at heart and who want it to do well, and let's be clear, also have the talent to help out, don't get involved in public life in that way. What happens to the country? What happens to the quality of debate? What happens to the persons offering themselves for public life? We look back, and I think I was right. You can't necessarily look back, but you look back at the kind of parliaments that we've had in the past, and then when you come forward to some of the other parliaments, and you're like, the quality of debate has changed. And at what situation would you get a leader of the opposition in parliament talking about when I'm hungry, I get starved from it? It's just so many issues going on. You could like squeeze the government. You could grind them on anything. You could have them running and crying in there on policy and got them stumbling over each other. It's not, you could really have them, and so many of these issues, and you think that is a time for that. I'm not saying that there's not theater in politics, because go back to my other point. I know politics can be fun. I've done my fair share on the platform. You make your jokes, you do, little licks and lashes. There's limits and things.
Yeah.
But I don't know where the new party will come from. I guess, Terry, if you ready to form one, I would join you. I would join the Terry and IO party.
Me? Follow Terry where?
I would join the
I think I already spoken for Ronnie. We let's take break. Anyway, go ahead.
Y'all
red
not getting me caught up.
and ready.
Y'all not getting me caught up. I stay focused.
Right.
I stay focused. The times that we are in right now, I'll be honest with you, and I hear Terry on these new parties and stuff. I mean, they're not gonna make any headway. Until they're just not. It's not just gonna happen. You don't just anyway. The best people to talk about forming new parties, the only people who've talked about forming new parties that I have a lot of time for is Dr. Bell and Tennyson. And I mean, Tennyson might be a little bit too idealistic sometimes.
I was gonna say that ideology.
But I agree that a party you don't just form a party and it because there has to be at the point in time something that calls for the party to emerge.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And I believe that wholeheartedly. And we can't say the reason is because we don't like the Prime Minister. All right, well, sit down and figure out your likes and your dislikes and what you're gonna do about them. You understand the point I'm making? Like an adult. There's an issue you have, you figure out how am I gonna agitate for this because I don't like what's happening here. But your reasoning for starting a party can't be because you don't like a Prime Minister and you expect it's going to be a successful party. You're wasting time. You're wasting people's time realistically. And a lot of that's what's happening right now. You understand the point I'm making? We like people, but I feel sometimes we got to disassociate ourselves from the idea that we have to like people. We ain't gonna like nobody. Nobody ain't gonna like me neither.
Correct.
You understand me? But what we can do about the issue that we have a problem with, and that's not, I'm not hearing enough of that coming out of the people who are just saying, well, I don't just like this person. You understand? I'm not hearing what is the issue that you don't like. The issue can be that time's hard for you because that is not a reason for you to start a party because time's hard for me too. You understand the point I'm making? What am I going to do about the cost of living? That's a better question that you should be asking. Or what are you going to agitate to the powers that be to do about you get the point I'm making.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I've seen on the ground in terms of the new parties that Terry's asking about, the answers or the questions, both of them, the answers and the questions are too flimsy to take them seriously. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, but I think there was an interesting some interesting comments in the chat in terms of parties and the succession for parties, because if you have a situation where, for example, PM takes the Barbados to the party, obviously into the next election, she wins, but then she steps aside. The question becomes, should then the public or the people have a chance to have their say on the new leadership of the Barbados Civil Party? Should that person then come back? And that's what I'm saying. Should that person come back
should who
to
have
the?
what?
Should the public? Should that person? This is the kind of questions that I can see emerging this right here.
It depends on what the Constitution says, those are Ronnie.
Yeah, but then
no problem. You ask a constitutional question, and you are a constitutional lawyer, Ronnie. So what are we doing, Ronnie?
So let me give you let me see it. So this comes back to a point about the modernization of political parties and whether we do the same old system, or do we modernize parties to be able to come back to the people if you're changing the leadership to say, is this the?
Man, you just went.
No, I'm asking a wide. I'm just asking a wide question.
He asked the same question a different way. Go ahead.
and then why? Because does the party then put itself back to the poll to say, okay, we've got a new leader? No, Terry, that might be your opinion. The people in the chat.
I think what Ronnie is advocating for constitutional change, because that's the only thing that he could be doing right now. Because our constitution is clear.
I know that. I know the constitution
is clear. How is the leader selected, Ronnie?
The leader is selected by the the person who commands the respect of the majority. We
There
know
we
how
go.
this works. We know
So
how
the
this
question
works.
you're asking then, and you're putting to the public here, is a one of
I'm putting it to you too.
reform.
I'm putting it to you as well. What's your view?
I am no constitutional lawyer.
But you're well versed in politics and political science, so
This
you
is
can
why you're not
answer.
getting me caught up in your question.
I don't think it would make a lot of sense. I mean, elections are a very expensive affair, and if the prime minister decides to take the Barbados party into the election, obviously she's decided to do that and wins, and then subsequently decides to call it a day, then we would continue until the new prime minister, whoever commands the majority support, decides there's another election to be held.
So in that way, and this is a problem that comes up in the UK. You are
Canada recently went through the same.
Yeah, but it always comes up in the UK. It's a valid question. You're saying it's okay for a small majority of party activists to be able to decide for the rest of us who should lead the country after an election we voted for the person, even though you don't vote for a prime minister. I know exactly. That's what I'm saying. And do we change that?
We call members of parliament party activists.
That you actually got the second most. Let me see if I can term it correctly. The second most read article on constitutional reform. That's what it is. Third. It was the third. Oh, okay. Probably just want to be a little bit too much.
But that's all right.
So, what's your rating on your constitutional reform, Ronnie? This is what you should be including. Just politics ain't getting there with you. There's one way.
But I'm just saying it's just one of those questions of how do we decide? The leadership after and it comes up in the UK all the time. Do we just let the MPs and a few party out because the branches and all those people? Let's be real. We know parties work. Executive, they will be involved. They will be involved. Let us be. They're going to be part of it. Do we just let those few decide after we've gone to general election? Where as a collective we've said we want you, the person who puts himself forward to lead the party. We know that person is likely going to become the prime minister. We can play with some man.
But the reason is look, there are changes that should be made to Westminster, yeah. But they also when we think about let me take off one hat and put on another. When we think about the political system, right? The leader is the leader who's the prime minister, right, of the country, but there's also the leader of the party. And the party is as much a part of the whole machine of the country. It's one of the machines of the country. If the leader of the country cannot command the respect of the people within the party or the people within the government, can that person logically, let's say, okay, let's me call a name. Me call some name that I can't get in trouble.
John Brown.
We like John Brown.
Yeah.
Right? We vote and we select a party, and that party has now made up the government, and we the public like John Brown, and we say John Brown should be prime minister, and nobody in that cabinet has any respect for John Brown because they know John Brown in a way that we the public don't know John Brown, and they know John Brown is a whatever.
Understood.
I mean, you see how that works?
I understand.
But
that's Errol. I say, we don't vote for the prime minister. So we vote for representatives.
We can play those games and talk about how we don't vote for prime ministers, but we know politics. I'm just saying how the Westminster system works. We know that politics has emerged in such a way.
We vote, regardless of what we like to think, we vote for a prime minister.
Correct. Thank you.
Right, and this is why that. The Democrat Little Party has now been beaten twice 30-0 because we were voting for a prime minister.
Yeah, and that brings me to a very important question, Ronnie. What are your predictions for the election? Another 30-0?
I have no predictions like IO. I'm not getting involved in those things. I have no predictions. All I can say is that people should go out to vote.
People definitely to vote.
If they're upset and they think that their vote is not going to register or whatever. I've seen a situation recently. I can't remember if it was. I think it was Ireland, where people wrote on the ballot. They wrote their complaints on the ballot. So there were thousands and thousands of thousands and thousands and thousands of spoiled votes, but with a message. So it wasn't just spoiling your vote. It was making a point about what you felt about the government and where you felt that they were going.
I want to ask this question from Trisha when you're complete. That's that statement. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So there are ways to register your your disgust, your annoyance, or whatever. I don't think people should stay home, but then again, the vote is yours. Should we get compulsory voting? Maybe that's also another discussion that we should have. Countries like Australia do it. It works well, but then there's a culture. So then you have to take those things into effect and points. But there's so many exciting political things that we should be discussing, and how do we really revolutionize our system and incentivize and get people out to vote and things like that. And sometimes it's just, we're not having those discussions. We're having side discussions about whether people are hungry and starving them, and it's
kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ayo.
Trisha is saying, welcome, Trisha. I know you were here for a minute, and I should have shut your early sense, but you're here anyway. She's saying that her diagnosis is that the starters of the parties and people offering themselves for office in the existing main parties is that they're starting from a position of being careers, politicians, not activists, not thought shapers, and not community leaders. And I want to say that to a certain degree, I agree with Trisha, but there's also the other idea that exists within me, and that is that you're not going to, in any institution, any political institution, political party, find everybody being the type of politician that you want them to be. That's why there's 30 of them. Mm-hmm. Do you understand the point I'm making? Mm-hmm. Ideally, I would prefer that every single politician that we send to parliament as voters, that they're activists. And when I say that they're activists, I mean that they are inherently activists. But we also know that that's the mindset. Not everyone. Trisha's an activist. Yeah. Let's be real. Do you understand that? Trisha's an activist. Everybody's not an activist. A lot of people who currently call themselves activists aren't activists either.
I know, exactly.
Right? There are people with a particular interest, right, that they're calling some attention to. But everybody is an activist, because one of the things that you have to be willing to do as an activist is that you have to be willing for your ideas and those ideas that you feel strongly about to be seen by other people as a waste of time and to be dismissed because of those views. Do you understand? And that happens a lot with activists, with real activists, right? In fact, a lot of real activists, they never, they never get to complete the work that they intended to do, and it's just seen as a bother a lot of times to the main artery of the society. You understand the point I'm making? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, but realistically, I would prefer that there's a part of me, the activist part of me, that would prefer that every single person that we send to parliament, we send into the house, is an activist at heart, that they're going in there and they're fighting for the things that we are concerned about out here. All right. But we know that doesn't happen. We know that there are people who are going to parliament because they couldn't get a job somewhere else. Right. And they can hold a job for 5 years and hopefully another 5 and get a pension. We know that these things happen. All right. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, we know that those different elements they exist and they will continue to exist. She also asked the other question about, should we be, where did it go now?
Is that should
we be voting for a prime minister? Should MPs be cabinet ministers or only legislators? Should cabinet be appointed from among the populace? I'll let Ronnie answer that as a constitutional lawyer on the board.
Oh Jesus! Some of it I agree with. So I think that cabinet should be drawn from a wider pool than elected MPs, because There are people of talent who will not want to put themselves through the political process, who will not want to have their family, their lives scrutinized. And as I said earlier, I can understand that. They see politics, it's messy, it's a lot. They love their country, but they're like, I just don't have that side in me. But they're talented, and you want their talent, and you may need their talent beyond being a consultant or expert. You might actually want them in cabinet with you every Thursday to do and to make policy. And we should open our constitution to allow for this. I think that the Guyanese constitution is a good model. I always talk about the Guyanese constitution in this context because I think it's a really good model. And they provide for that. So you can choose extra parliamentary ministers who will then have they don't have any voting rights because in terms of being in parliament, but they can go to parliament, present what they need to present. So I think there's room for that so that you can get some of the expertise that you need in cabinet. And perhaps there's a mix to reduce the number of ministers that come from parliament so parliament can do its legislative function. Because I think if this government has demonstrated anything, that parliament's legislative function has lapsed. It's very poor. Its lawmaking, it's really bad. The kind of mistakes in laws, the kind of unclear policy positions, the things that people are getting, I don't think they're paying enough attention to the legislative function. And sometimes that's because you're a minister, you're a legislator, and then you are a community representative. So you're wearing three particular hats, and something is going to have to give. Because if you want to be elected again, you better be a good community representative. If you want to hold on to the ministerial job so the prime minister don't fire you better be a good minister. But really, there's no consequence of you being a poor legislator. There's not. If you're doing bad at that bit, really, who is paying attention besides the activist or the expert? But that's what I'm saying. Besides the activist or the experts,
and other people who
and yourself
to read these documents,
and we do, but right? Then there's no real consequence.
Attention.
But there's no consequence for failure there. If you see what I mean, like you can mess up that part of the equation and kind of get a blight. The other two parts of the equation, you definitely are not messing up because you're losing your ministerial pick. And you don't want to, and you want to come back as an MP, so you definitely will be in the constituency at weekends. Perhaps at weekends when you should be reading the papers and the bills, but you don't have time because you're in the constituency dealing with the people's issues. And then when you're supposed to be doing it, when you don't have time because you're going to be drafting the cabinet paper to do whatever you're supposed to be doing. So we saw a lot of rushed legislation from those who have been watching this and commenting. We can see the mistakes. It's not carefully thought out. And I think Trisha's point there is something that's valid. And we have to think maybe there's a role for reducing the number of ministers in Parliament so Parliament can actually just do its lawmaking function better. And I think there needs to be improvement on that side in our system because right now it's not happening the way it should. Because the other two roles are taken up and sucking the oxygen in time out. So there's value in that proposal.
All right, Tracy Phillips is saying that MPs should be legislators only. Cabinet ministers should be a competitive job that people qualified in the area should apply for and go through a recruitment process that is guided by a committee made up of government representatives and opposition representatives. Opposition and the government could have ministry focal points to keep abreast of things. And you know what? I hope y'all going out to, there's been holding some community, what are they called again? Idea forums. And I hope you people are going to these idea forums and giving these recommendations to the people who can do something about them. But yeah, you want to comment on Tracy's point, Terry, since Ronnie's gone?
No, well, commenting on Trisha Watson's.
Well, I know this ain't really your forte, so yeah.
What was this?
She said MP should be legislators only. cabinet minister should be a competitive job that persons qualified for in the area should apply for.
But in term that's similar to the point that Trisha made. I don't necessarily think that
answering her questions. I think.
Yeah, I think Tracy's answering the point that, and I don't think that they should be only, because as I said, reduce it. So I think you should reduce the number. So I think you still need that little mix because you want to connect the legislature to the executive. And I think in our system, given the size of our system, a complete separation may not be advisable because you don't want
real
that
politics for a little bit. Let me talk about this from a real politics perspective a little bit. There's 30 seats to be had.
Correct.
And as a government, you want to win all 30. Mm-hmm. You're going to find people who can win that seat. Mm-hmm. When the job is to be done, what you are going to do is find people who can do the job from among those 30 or from outside of those 30.
Yeah.
And pragmatically, that's the only way that you can do it in our current system. Do you understand the point I'm making?
Unless you change the current system.
Unless you change the current system. So again, we come back to the same question on what?
Review.
Reform.
Yeah, and it's an important. I know it's not a sexy topic sometimes for people, but it's an important topic, and I think from a symbolic and performative point of view, the Prime Minister recognizes the importance, but from a real and actually follow through point of view, she doesn't want to follow through.
Because she's one of the few real politicians that we have.
so she's good on the performative side. You can't take that.
For her, right?
You
all know this already.
Yeah, exactly. You can't take the performative politics.
The good and the bad we deal with, but
yeah, and I agree with Trisha. I think the idea forms are performative. All of these things are there's no real follow through with the ideas. You had
going to say that they're performative for me might be going a little bit too far, but I do understand why people will say that they're performative. What I think is that there's real intent. I think what falls down is follow through. And there's something else that I've realized too, is that sometimes we think that something has been put to bed, and it's because we haven't followed up on it. Do you understand that? And I've had a few experiences like that where it was like, well, what become of this thing or whatever? I ain't hearing any more about this. And when the Barbados Labour Party first took over government, they were very good at selling themselves, and I use that term deliberately. They were very good at selling themselves, and I think that they've fallen on that a little bit in this term, where they're not selling their wins as much as they used to before. And I think that came from a place where there was a lot of pushback to them selling themselves.
Let me get messy like Terry. Are there wins to sell?
Pardon?
Are there wins to sell? You assume that they're not saying to sell. I being messy like Terry. I learned from Terry.
And I can answer that question because I deliberately did the research on the amount of, and I brought down the wins and in intersections. So there's some legal wins, there's some economic wins, there's some social wins, and so
I can tell you. Hold on. Let me have this debate then. All right, I'm ready for you. I got on button my shirt. Should I unbutton my shirt and get ready?
Until 10 o'clock tonight. But then we will look at some of them, right? Because like you really have to, and this is not chat GPT research. This is actual research.
Stop telling on yourself, yo. Stop telling on yourself. No boy accused you.
But I look up the DLP on chat GPT. I ain't gonna hide that. I couldn't find it anywhere in one parcel. I had to just done with this. Do you understand? But there were actual wins, but sometimes the wins aren't, as the same word you use just now, sometimes the wins aren't sexy. And sometimes I feel like people don't know how to say, well, look, this is actually a benefit to you. But there are things that can be tightened down, or can be better, or can be even done. Don't get me wrong. You understand the point I'm making? But there are wins. And I'm still not at a place where I'm ready to shift completely away from the Barbados Labour Party at this point. in this election coming up on 11th of February. And I just being really real with you guys right
pretty
now.
enough,
Because where we moving to?
And no, and that is a fair, and I would say,
and this is why I had to go and physically look up these wins, because I have to be confident in knowing that, well, there's actually something there. It's not all just fluff or what. Do you understand the point I'm making? And we'll look at some of those wins next week.
I ain't gonna be here. I was gonna see if I can be here next week. But you can't do the wins without me, because they can come on the other side of the equation. You know, balance is important. Balance is important. Balance is important.
Feel free to bring those.
Yeah, no,
those should be mentioned, because you always have to hold people accountable.
And I think that is part of the problem. Not a problem. I think that is part of the issue with this government in terms of accountability for the things that aren't working. And there's nothing wrong. And I think sometimes if you just say, look, this ain't working, or look, we trying this, I think that's a better approach. I don't know why politicians don't feel that that's the approach they should take. I don't understand why they feel it should always be like trying to create it as if it worked. It's not like, look, I tried to do X and Y, but look, this is what I face, or this happened, or I can't find the money, or just say what it is. Let me be determinative as the voter of whether you messing up or you're trying hard enough, rather than trying to pretend that it's all okay and that, you know, the sun is shining all the time.
Yeah, but my job is to convince you that it's okay, though.
Oh. But not working with 40% turnout.
That's my job. And I talk as a politician now. My job is to convince you that it's okay, but my job is also to make sure that it is okay. Do you understand that? Once I'm convinced you, and sometimes the problem is that sometimes you forget that second part. Once I'm convincing you that it's okay, I also have to make sure that I'm telling you the truth. Yeah. That even if it isn't okay right now, this is something I used to do when I was employed. My boss would ask me something, and I would say, well, yeah, I got that covered. And by the time he do something, let him out, it covered. He ain't gonna was lying. Huh?
Well, you see, that's the problem. You get a lot, but the covering ain't happening. People, because when I go and chat, well, you fix it. So I politics is an interesting place right now in Barbados. Mm-hmm. A very, very interesting place on both sides of the equation. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, where do you go to? So
there's nowhere to go to.
So people want to, and people actually want to vote. People would love to vote for somebody else.
As somebody who pays a lot of attention, not just to what's happening locally, I pay a lot of attention to what's happening regionally, and I pay a lot of attention to what's happening internationally. And I don't just pay attention to know, but one of the things I always ask myself is, how is this going to affect me right here in my little space? Do you understand that? And that's very important to me. And if I'm looking for somebody to take me into the future that I can see, that I have no idea where it is going, right? I need to put somebody there that I can trust to take me through it. That's the truth. And I'm not even being political right now. I'm just being real. I can't see Ralph carrying me there.
And that's fair. And that's a fair,
a wonderful place to end right there. We cannot see Ralph taking us anywhere. I can't see him
taking us there right now.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It may sound very political, but that's me being IO right now. I'm not even being political at all. I swear to God, this is just me being IO. I can't see him taking me there right now. That's just where I am.
Fair. So predictions. I mean, we are still very early on. You know, Barbadians need to still get out and vote for whomever. But I know Ronnie is not going to give us any predictions.
I'm not playing.
I'm going to go pick up Ronnie and take him to the polls in a red shirt.
What are you predicting for the election?
I'm going to drive to St. Peter and going to all the way from Christchurch to St. Peter, pick up Ronnie on the election day, and I'm taking the poll in a red shirt.
You're about to bring the shirt too.
I'm bringing the shirt too.
I ain't got no red shirt.
I can bring a shirt. I can find a shirt for you.
Ayo has a lot of red shirts, Ronnie. You okay? Yeah, how many red shirts? I am surprised she's not wearing a red shirt tonight. Actually,
I don't even. I have. Believe it or not, yesterday I went to the nomination of what's his name? Because I know because I saw the newspaper post this thing about the prime minister. Because I don't go to these nominations, but I saw the papers post the prime minister leaving. I was like, what? Hold on. I was heading to the gym. I had on gym clothes. I don't go anywhere in gym clothes. If you guys know me well, I get dressed to the nines. I went to this nomination in gym clothes. I talking leggings and a t-shirt. Face beer, sneakers. Y'all never see me outside like that, right? And I switched lanes and I went down to this nomination because I knew based on how that was posted that the elections were going to call yesterday. And I just wanted to be there to make sure that I got that news first. But I was like, oh, this conversation again.
Red shirt, you coming to carry me to vote.
Right.
And I
so
I
tell you,
I ain't got a red shirt.
You were about to make a prediction as to
I
what
was the only person there
be.
that wasn't wearing a red shirt. Do you understand the point of vacant? I was there in gray and blue or some nonsense.
They probably would have put you out.
I agree with you, Gail. I can't pronounce Gail Manning. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. It's not only where we want to go, but who exactly is taking us where we want to go. And I'm going to change that last one and put need where we need to go, Gail. That is what is going to be important in this next iteration of our politics. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I think that we've had a long conversation.
We have.
Unless you guys have any other points to make.
No, nothing. It feels like we're just getting started.
Yeah,
I know. That's why I ended y'all, because I know we could be here all night.
We can't.
I know how our conversations go when we're not even on air, so I know we can go all
exactly. We keep going.
So I know I gotta end it there because I haven't eaten for the day, and I'm here drinking a glass of wine, and I end up here also my cheeks looking.
Ralph, are you hungry too? Okay.
That's not just makeup,
Ralph, has he hungry as well?
My Sunday meal is still out there waiting to be eaten because you will leave me alone today, Terry. Testing system all day long. And I still couldn't hear me tonight. I still had to fix it from my end, but here we are.
Wait. Before we go, I can play devil advocate because I obviously got a few trolls on the panel and people doing things. So let's don't get away yet, Trisha. Stan, hold on, CC. Somebody said, why is the panel so comfortable with the regime that is so corrupt and giving away our land? First thing, whoever this person is, because when people don't got pictures, I can't think.
Do they have a name?
It says Beverly Lane 33626, but you can never tell.
That's a bot. You can move on.
Yeah, without no, but I like to, you gotta face things head on. I just talk about politicians who's run away from things. You see, my thing is, right, if you got a question to ask any of us, we're all civil people. Come and ask a question. I'll just literally tell you what her politics is. Does she look like she hiding something at this stage of the game? So I don't at this stage, I don't understand. Again, this is what our politics needs as well. It needs a rebirth of maturity so people can actually agree, disagree, and let it be okay. I do not know when that it's become so visceral that if you say you like somebody, or suppose the prime minister do something, you say, well, I actually like that. Use a B. You're like, I just said I like that particular policy. I never said I like the other 10. Or if on the other side, the flip side for B, and you said, well, the prime minister, how you mean? She's my prime minister. I'm like, y'all
have heard me sat here and talk about people that I like on both sides of the aisle. Yes. For the last 5 years that we've been coming here.
And I do not know how this is just our ending thought, maybe, but how do we get that back into politics where we can actually just have conversations without it getting so toxic and, oh, you don't like this body and I don't like, and I politics and a red shirt and a yellow shirt. And it's okay to be able to say, actually, I don't like the policy. I think you did X, Y, and Z. Fine. Okay. I don't like this, or I like that aspect of it. But the rest, let's talk about that. How do we get that back? I don't know if we can get it back the way it used to be, but how do we get that kind of ability to have those conversations in our politics?
That's where we come in. We're going to be the youth.
The person says the person said they're not a bot and they voted for more than one party in my life. Well, Beverly, let me be clear on this. So then why would you ask a question like that? Because nobody here is comfortable with corruption. How are you accusing us of being? Have we ever said that? Nobody here. We've just sat down and gone through reforms that could reduce corruption. We've just talked about some things we like about the government. I've been critical of the government. Lord knows. I mean, like you can Google the articles. I've said that the government should not be pushing tourism and land development this particular way. If it was up to me, there'll be no more beach front developments to block out views to the sea. I think that there are different ways to explore tourism. So, I mean, how do you get and then say, oh, be comfortable with corruption, the government give away the land? How do you make those connections and are so bold to make the assertions without factual evidence or without coming to us with facts? But people just, I find in our part, we just say things. People say, man, Terry's a dem. How? You understand what I mean? You know what I mean? I like, people just say things. But you know what I mean? People just say things as if they're truthful and just walk there and make it up.
I would do 100%, Ronnie. I would do 100%.
And it's worrying, you know. It's so worrying.
It's not worrying because what I've learned to do is to just ignore the comments that are provocative without reason. Do you understand?
I know what you
I don't
mean.
mind provocative. I don't like people being provocative because that helps. All right, we need more of that. But sometimes people are provocative for their own personal thing, and I ain't getting into nobody's personal thing. That you think you gonna work out.
No, I know, but at the same point, it's
they like to say Ayo is a B.
It's
Listen, Trisha, I've heard that I am a paid influencer.
We have to get Trisha on the show at some point.
Yeah, we have.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
She's been here before.
Trisha's been here a couple times. But they said I'm a paid influencer, Trisha. If I was a paid influencer, I would never leave this computer. Terry will tell you that I say to him, Terry,
the computer not working, or the computer
but I need to
work.
go make money. You understand? And if I was a paid influencer, I'll be here every single day.
And like you will have a computer that works. You will have no technical issues.
The anti-vaxxers out there. I'll be here every day, 3 times a day. I won't go get it from here and go make money. Because my price will be one that could support me sitting down here if that's what you want me to do. You think that coming? You understand me? For the last 5 years, I was a B. Here, Angela, no, look. Here with it. I know it's a B this election though. That's what y'all need to know. Somebody said I was wrong for 5 years or not. And I need y'all to go to the polls and vote right.
I know somebody said I talking no more than I've talked. And the DLP, they obviously weren't listening because at some point it's the time they're talking too much. So I'm sorry, but you obviously didn't listen. Google. All you just do is Google.
What?
Google. Oh, Jesus. Listen.
But one question before we go. We going now because I tell thought we don't hang at least.
We ain't gonna stop.
And I need to eat. But one question. We all feel about this conversation that is happening among certain people trying to push the idea that you're gonna vote for an opposition.
Terry, you go on. I'm leaving that for you.
Vote for the opposition. No, I think it's a.
You vote for an opposition.
No. You should vote for the government you want to see. So if you vote for the opposition, don't be surprised if the opposition become the government that you do not want to see. So I think Barbadians should be smart about things. They should listen to Ayo, go to the polls, and vote exactly
she's gonna come for you and
some of you and take you to the polls and
take you to the polls.
You should vote for the government you want to see. You should vote for obviously a government you think can perform, a government you think can perform in a rational way that is in sharing the same set of facts that we have here. Government whose leaders aren't, dealing in conspiracy theories and dealing in, a lot of nonsense just to cut it short. So that's what I think. I think Barbadians should vote for the government they want to see and you should dispel the idea of voting for opposition. That's always dangerous because it doesn't take much for the opposition to become the government. And we've seen it before. It's happened before in our tradition. We've seen surprise results where individuals went out, maybe did not vote, or maybe voted for, feeling for people and giving them a vote, and then you end up with the government, and you have to live with that for at least 5 years.
But I prefer government. Let me tell you what I prefer. I prefer a government that I can say to them, listen to me, you're doing nonsense though, and we can get up and we can argue that out, rather than one that I even able to get up and say you're doing nonsense. And we've all had times where we didn't even able to get up and say we're doing nonsense, right? Good. I leave that there. Y'all can call me a B now.
All right, guys. So I will wrap it up. So it's great to be back. I don't know if you want to say a couple words before next week.
I want to look at some of the things that I told you all this just now. Right? Y'all can come, and you in the audience too. Y'all can come here on Sunday next week, and y'all can come with all the things that y'all decide. These are the things that the government failed on, because what I'm coming with is
the wins. All right, I guess
she's gone. She's gone.
What I'm coming here with is
and she's back like a bee.
Stinging every.
Yeah.
Where was somebody just to call me now?
I don't know.
Anyway.
You don't know your business.
What I am coming here next week with is a list of all the things that I think the government has won on since they've been in. And I'm going to go all the way back to 2018 to now, because we can't look at it in a vacuum, because some of it overlaps, yeah? And you guys are going to come here next week and tell me, well, Ayo, we'll look at this. Right?
Well, you bring your list, and then we will have the alternate discussion about why I want you to put constitutional reform on there, because let me tell you, BLX, that's definitely not a win. That is definitely.
Listen, we can argue that, because I would agree with you that when we look at the and if I was having a conversation, I won't call his name now, but you guys know him too. Last night on the whole constitutional reform thing, and we would agree that it didn't go far enough. It's not even up for discussion.
All right.
Right?
Okay.
We can agree to that. But we can also agree that we have a culture when it comes to constitutional reform of going slowly at it. That's our culture. Yeah.
Well, that needs to change.
Is it correct? Is it advisable?
No,
Is it whatever? But we have a belief, and that's who we are though as a people. We're very conservative. We don't like to admit it, but we're very conservative. We don't like these big changes to, it's like, what we doing? What we're not doing, I'm mashing up everything. So we can sit here intellectually and say, yes, break it up, because I would say break it up and start back.
We know
you all know this already, right?
Yeah.
We can sit here, we can say that, but our society is very, very conservative. And we move too quickly, people get uneasy. All right, but we're gonna look at that. We can look at that also next week.
Okay.
All
right. Have a good one.
Well, Ayo, thanks for chairing the meeting. Looking forward to you on a platform not too soon, I guess, or soon.
Yeah.
Ronnie,
if she goes on a platform, I'm going to chair on her at the meeting. Wherever she go, whether it's a B or D platform, I can turn up at the meeting. I can chair.
But Ronnie, gonna get you some red shirts then.
Ronnie.
Thank you.
See you at the meeting. Just say I give you the shirt and I bring you there.
No thanks. It's okay.
Yeah, Ronnie, good to see you again, my friend, and thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thank you also to the audience. You guys have been really great tonight. I love all the conversations. My girl Cassandra, love seeing the audience. Barbados, Angela, all the old heads. Saffron.
I can't even call the people old heads.
Trisha, all of you guys. Can't call everybody name because it means going back through all these
Beverly Lane comments. We love Beverly Lane as well.
Yeah, Beverly, come back. Don't mind them.
Beverly, come back. We want to see you next week.
Come back. We'll come with a picture next week. We're all open here. Leandro, Rick Curl, I love that name. But thank you guys for coming out. Gil, thank you for your comments. Also, you've been great. All of you've been great. So see you guys back here next week. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Bye-bye.
one.
Watching Just Politics, Our Worldview. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at JP Our. Like, subscribe, and smash the notification bell so you'll know when we upload new content. Join us next time.